Travel here and then I travel younger. Well, I've been a traveling. I've traveled cold and then I've traveled hungry. Well, I've traveled cold and then I've traveled hungry. Well, I traveled cold and then I've traveled hungry. Well, I've been a traveling. Traveled in the mountain, traveled down in the valley. Well, I traveled in the mountain, traveled down in the valley. Well, I traveled in the mountain, traveled down in the valley. Well, I've been a traveling.
If you were described, Saul, as a professional agitator, what would your reaction be to that description?
That's okay with me. That's what you left out one word, Studs. Professional outside agitator. You see, you got to be an outside agitator to begin with, because agitators very rarely come up from the inside. Because if you come up from the inside, one or two things happens to you. Either you get knocked off, or you get co-opted. That's the reason all agitators are outside agitators. And, you see, when you're out to really get change, every community, every place is organized. When sociologists talk about social disorganization or that communities are disorganized, they know what they're talking about. You can go into the creditious community. It's got a policy racket going. It's got a syndicate going. It's got a political organization in there that's crooked as hell. And they're being exploited if it's a company town, but it's organized, you know? It's a contradiction in terms to say that there's such a thing as a disorganized community. So that the job of an agitator is first, if he's going to, it's really not organizing a movement, he's reorganizing it. First he's got to change the whole pattern. He's got to disorganize it. That's why he's an agitator. And after he disorganizes it, then he reorganizes it.
So we're coming to now something. Then this man who enters the community, this outside quote-unquote agitator, has entered a community that is organized to begin with.
That's right.
And organized for what? And why is he there? See, organized for what? The community.
Well, the community is organized on a certain pattern of values. You can call it an exploitation of the many by the few over there. Call it whatever you want to. The organizer brings in another set of values. Now, to say that an organizer comes in who is just in there as sort of a blotter, that he's going in for just participatory democracy. He doesn't have any ideas. He's just going to be a servant to the people, of the masses, so to speak. He will just reflect what they want. It's just a lot of romantic crap. If an organizer doesn't have ideas as to how he wants to change that thing, and more important, if he doesn't have the sophistication and the experience to know how to get it done. See, there's a big difference between the what's that you want to get in life and the how you go about getting it. If you don't know the how about getting it, you're never going to get the what's. I always used to say that if any smart organizer had come up before the Oracle at Delphi, and the Oracle always sounded off with her usual proverbial business of know thyself, you know. A smart organizer would look at her and say, okay, Oracle, now how the hell do I go about doing it? Don't tell me what I have to get. Tell me how to get it, because unless I know the how, the what is just rhetoric, you know. Then I imagine the Oracle would have had a fit, you know. Would have said one question aloud only to a customer or something, get thee gone.
Yeah.
That organizer's got to have ideas. If he doesn't have ideas, when he comes in there, if he doesn't know how and what to do, the only thing that his presence does is where the population was say 100,000 before he walked in, it now becomes 100,001. That's all. It doesn't make any difference there. He can only come in on the basis really of an invitation from the community. I go to Houston, I do nothing but to lecture at the University of Houston. I get at the airport, the whole clan is out there in full regalia. The mayor is all over the front page of the newspaper. He's going to investigate the university for inviting this radical down to speak to the university. The John Birch Society's got a mass picket line out there. The next morning, there's a big delegation of blacks inviting me to come in because they'd never seen everybody they hated so uptight. But now, if you haven't got that kind of rep, you got to go about working your way in. And one of the basic things here is whether you really, I should stop and say this, Studs, that this is one field on which you cannot pull a con game or snow job. If you don't like people, they goddamn well soon know it. You know, you can pull a fast job if you're selling a vacuum cleaner or something. You're only going to be with the guy for an hour, or selling him a house or a car. But when you're selling people and working with them, you're working with them for hours, for days, for weeks, for months. Sooner or later, they sense it, you know. So, as long as you respect the dignity of people, then they'll respond to you. Now, that sounds like an old cliche, but as long as I respect you, for example, I can't come to you and say, now, Studs, this is the way you get this thing done, because what I'm really saying to you is, look, you dumb son of a bitch, you've been sitting around here for years, and I got to come along and tell you now, this is the way you get it done. So, naturally, you're going to resent it. You see, freedom of choice, and freedom is part of dignity, is really the right to make the choice. I go into a neighborhood. I run into you. You're on welfare, you know. You're standing on the corner. So we get into a conversation. So I say, where do you live? Over there. Well, where the f*** you expect me to live? I'm on relief. Well, what do you want me to live in, a 14-karat gold palace, you know? No, but Jesus, you pay anything to live there? Oh, come on. Trying to be funny? Well, no, I don't want to be funny about it. Jesus, place looks like it's loaded with rats and cockroaches, everything. You damn well know what it is. What would happen if you didn't pay your rent? What would happen? They'd throw me out my kids and everybody else. What do you mean? Yeah. What would happen if nobody paid their rent over there? Why, well, Jesus, they'd have a little trouble throwing us all out, wouldn't they? Hey, you know, how about having a beer and talking about it? Where are you from, anyway? And you start getting in, you know? You have got to communicate to the people that you have got those abilities and those talents that make for a winner. They're so tired of losing. They've been playing losers all their lives, you know? Now, you can't do it by saying, I'm a winner, or I'm so smart, you know, or I got all these abilities. And they don't believe their own on it, that this guy's okay. The most that that means is that you're okay as far as being on their side, but not that you got the stuff to win. Now, they may hate the establishment, hate its guts, but like everything, and they fear it. But fear is always a concomitant of reverence. Regardless of all their feeling up there, they feel those sons of bitches are smarter than we are. They got all the way up there, and look at all they have, the power they got and everything else. They got something, you know. Now, if that establishment upstairs turns around and says, Alinsky is a dangerous agitator, red revolutionary, then you got it. Because, you see, the moment they say that I'm dangerous to them, to the people down here, they figure, well, geez, this guy may be able to win. Otherwise, they wouldn't say he was dangerous. Dangerous to who? To them. And anybody who's dangerous has got a chance of winning. And the moment, of course, obviously, they brand you as an agitator, as an enemy, it means it also commits you on the side of the people. So what you do is not only try to get the invitation along the lines that I've indicated, but you've got to get that establishment up there to really denounce the...
Who is it invites you into a community? And perhaps you can be specific about certain ones you've been in. Who invites you in?
All right, well, let's take Rochester, New York. They blow in a race riot in 1964. Until Watts blew the next year, it was the worst riot in the country. The National Guard was down there, a helicopter crashed, lives were lost, and so on. So the Rochester Area Council of Churches, these are all the white churches, including some of the blacks, respectable black churches. My answer to them was, oh, now wait, cool it. You know, we're not one of these colonial operations like the Christian churches. You send your missionaries all over the country, all over the world, whether anybody asks for them or not. You haven't got business speaking for the black ghetto. We'll come in and organize, but we'll organize your white communities. But until the black ghetto asks us to come in, we're not coming in. So then the job starts very quickly. The papers went into an uproar. The front page editorials and stuff in which they were saying if Alinsky comes in, that's the end of peace and love. They had a riot the year before between ourselves and our black fellow Americans. Radio, every hour on the hour, they'd come out with these editorials. I mean, every hour on the hour. So the blacks were reading all this stuff, and on top of that, they had a statement. Malcolm X had been in Rochester just 3 weeks before all this began. It was actually just about 6 weeks before he got it. And he was asked a question by the leader of his forces in Rochester, what about Saul Alinsky. And his answer was, use them, squeeze them dry, get them in here, learn everything you can, and then go on yourself on a thing. So between Malcolm's statement and the white establishment just raising hell about me, next thing I knew, we had an invitation from every black church in the ghetto, every civil rights group, every street gang, and more than 13,000 individual signatures on petitions from a total population of 35,000. So if you took the kids out of the scene, you could say that every black in Rochester signed a petition inviting us in there. Now that's what I mean by an invitation.
What happens? Leaders turn up, community leaders.
Leaders turn up, you develop. If you don't believe in people, if you don't believe in them, studs, then what you have to believe in, of necessity, is a dictatorship, an elitist society, an aristocracy. You have to, if you don't believe in people. Now, I don't believe in people as any kind of a political paradise. I don't believe there is a political paradise. But in terms of alternatives, life has never afforded you what is best. You never get that luxury. It's always, you make your value judgment and you make your position in terms of the alternatives. And if you leave a free and open society, at least relatively speaking as it's used, what are the alternatives? And when I turn to the kids on some of this stuff and say, you're talking about love and you're talking about peace and cooperation and all these other beautiful words that have been around with mankind for ad infinitum, you're not asking for a revolution, you're asking for revelations. I never meant anything so much in my life as I did in that last line to the introduction of Reveille, that the pursuit of happiness is endless, that happiness lies in the pursuit. It's a constant chase. I can't think of a situation that would be a worse hell to live in than a world in which there weren't any problems. It's life. Look, every time you resolve a problem in the resolution of it, you're creating another one. That's the way it goes. And it means listening. It doesn't mean talking all the time. It means there's more organization done with the ear than with the tongue. I can't tell you, studs, of the hours and hours I've sat on a back porch with some woman, for example. I've come over there to try to get her to come to a meeting. I've sat there for an hour while she has bitched on every neighbor, and after she's gotten through an hour, I haven't even opened my mouth. She said, now, Mr. Alinsky, I want you to know that I agree with every word you've said. Well, what time's the meeting?
Yeah.
I'll be there,
Yeah.
you know? They want somebody to talk to. It's a lonely world, my friend. And there's nothing that is more horrible than loneliness. It's the one thing we fear it far more than hunger. You know, during the Depression, we were sort of happy together. Because the one thing that came through, we were in such a common misery that when we put out a hand, there was a hand to come down and hold us. If we were being evicted out of our flats, not paying rent, our neighbors showed up. People we didn't even know were alive. They moved our furniture back in. People cared, you know. Now, that's where we were getting different values around. And don't forget, in those 30s, too, we were talking about a whole new world that was coming around the corner. The days of the banks were done. We had been brought up on a Protestant ethic of saving our money, putting it in the bank, and the banks folded on us. Everything was collapsing all around us on it. And loneliness, look, I think that this is the reason why we're so scared, we're scared to death of death. Because death is the ultimate in loneliness. They stick you in a box, put you in a hole in the ground, everybody goes away. For one thing, I'm one of those very, very lucky guys who's doing exactly what he wants to do and is getting paid for it. You know, I'm having a ball doing the things I'm doing.
Traveled in the mountain, traveled down in the valley. Well, I traveled in the mountain, traveled down in the valley. Well, I traveled in the mountain, traveled down in the valley. Well, I've been a traveling on. I've traveled with the rich, traveled with the poor, traveled with the rich, traveled with the poor, traveled with the rich, traveled with the poor. I've been a traveling on. One of these days I'm gonna stop all my traveling. Oh, one of these days I'm gonna stop all my traveling. Oh, one